This is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy.
Everywhere you turn, it's the same old sports talk, the same headlines, the same news, and the same boring information. This podcast is here to change all of that. We bring you hot sports takes, winning sports betting strategy and picks, reliable gaming industry news, and breaking interviews with some of the biggest names in sports business. My name is Ryan Newpel, and welcome to the Noop Sports Show.
Welcome, everybody, to Noop Sports College Football Podcast, where we're going to preview Week 2. This is Tom, along with Rodney, and Rodney, Week 1 is gone.
Week 1 is gone. We're already into Week 2. Week 1 was good. Just okay for my picks. You had a pretty good week. Ryan had a decent week. So we're moving on to Week 2. Looking forward to some. The good thing about these early season weeks is there are really some pretty good games. I mean, we saw a really good game last week with Alabama, Florida State. I don't know if it was a really good game, but two really good teams. And now this week with the Ohio State, Oklahoma, even the Clemson and Auburn games. Some good games this week. I'm looking forward to them.
Well, speaking of Florida State, are they done?
Well, they're not going to be a national. I mean, they're not going to be able to get to a national title game. I mean, the thing about college football is, I mean, when are you done? I guess for Florida State, done would mean not getting to the national championship because that was what their expectations were. I mean, they're going to still win 9-10 games. I mean, they got Louisiana Monroe this week. They're going to have a tough one against Miami coming up on the 16th, which is now interesting because Miami gets an extra week to prepare. And, you've got Florida in there. You've got Clemson on their schedule. You got Louisville. So Florida State's going to lose another game. They're not going to – they're done because they're not going to get to the national title game.
Yeah, and speaking of Florida, we have to have our thoughts out to the people of Florida and with Noop Sports. Ryan's out there and stuff. So thoughts are out to all the people in Florida and the hurricane people out there.
Yeah, watching a little bit of the coverage on the Weather Channel, and they're saying 185-mile-per-hour winds. And I'm thinking, boy, we here in Illinois freak out at about 30 and 40-mile-per-hour winds. And that's about 5 times that out down there in Florida. So just amazing.
Well, they moved the UCF game to Friday night, and that's probably a good move for them.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, you need to get it done before this comes in. And, it sounds like the storm's going to be more like Sunday, Monday. So, yeah, I mean, as long as they're beating this storm and getting the heck out of there, I bet if they're Memphis saying, we'll go ahead and come a little early and get that game done with. But, UCF and Memphis in a decent game coming up on Friday.
Who impressed you in Week 1?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, Ohio State second half was really good. I was a little surprised Clemson was really good. The Barkley kid there at Penn State's really, really good. I thought teams like Oklahoma and USC just kind of rolled through what they were supposed to do. Michigan with a nice win. So I think all the teams really that were supposed to win, got the job done with like the exception of Texas. But I'm not sure how good Texas was in the first place. So right. Other than that, the top 10 teams, they're all pretty good.
Yeah, I was impressed with Ohio State for a half. I was disappointed in Texas. So from there, things went pretty much like I thought they should go for the most part.
Yeah, definitely. And, you see 3 Big Ten teams in the top 10. No surprise there. You see a couple Big 12 teams. I mean, no surprises. USC, I guess, was a surprise that they kind of struggled with Western Michigan. But keep in mind, just because PJ Fleck's gone, that doesn't mean that they have a bad team. They got a lot of his players there. Western Michigan's still pretty decent. So USC just needed to get a win. Now they have Stanford coming up, and that should be a really good football game.
Well, let's look at some of the games for the week. We just picked out some random games. Most of them are considered top 25 teams. We got 2 of them playing each other. First of all, Oklahoma and Ohio State. I like Ohio State. You know that. J.T. Barrett caught on fire in the second half. Freshman running back Dobbins was really good. Paris Campbell was good in receiving. I just don't see anything bad about Ohio State that they're going to lose to Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma's good. Baker Mayfield had a great day, 19 of 20. You can't do much better than that. I got Ohio State, even though it's a good touchdown or 6.5 or 7.5. I like Ohio State.
Yeah, I'll go against you. I'll take Oklahoma. Remember last year, Oklahoma got smoked on their home field, and Baker Mayfield talked this week about how it hurt to see Ohio State sing the fight song on the Oklahoma field. And it's a new coach there in Oklahoma. I think Lincoln Riley is going to do a nice job. There's especially if you can get at 7.5. A lot of games end at 7. So Oklahoma plus 7.5 I think is a nice bet. I think what really needs to happen is Baker Mayfield needs to be by far the best quarterback on the field. If he's the best quarterback on the field, I think they have a chance. It should be a good game. I mean, it's hard to say that Oklahoma is going to win, but I do think they'll cover this game. I think it'll be a fun game. Over under 64.5 seems like a lot. Probably stay away from that, but I'll take Oklahoma plus 7.5 on that one.
Well, what should the bettors do with this half number, with the 7.5?
Well, I mean, I guess if you want Ohio State, you need to take it down this. You need to either take it down a half point or a point. I mean, if you want to take it all the way down to a point and get it at 6.5, but probably just might as well go ahead and put it at 7, in case it is a 31-24 or, 34-27 result and, you get beat by that half point. So by the half point for sure. I mean, you don't want to get beat by that hook, by that half point. So,
Okay.
And right now 62% of the country is siding with me on Oklahoma. So
yeah, I saw that.
yeah, we'll see. I mean, that's not always accurate. So I do like Oklahoma to cover this game.
Well, we have Stanford USC, a little battle out in the West Coast. I mean, the Cardinals were pretty good, 62-7 over Rice, which Rice isn't that good, but they still dominated the game. USC handled Western Michigan, maybe by not as big a margin as some thought. But this is a great matchup with Sam Darnold throwing.
Mm-hmm.
The line really, again, 6.5 or so with USC. I really struggled with this one. I probably wouldn't bet it, but that's kind of where I am.
Yeah. 67% of the country is favoring Stanford to keep this close. And that's what Stanford's done over the years is, found ways to win. And if not, they've kept it close. A lot of people are wondering, well, what's Stanford going to do without Christian McCaffrey? Well, a guy by the name of Bryce Love, 13 carries, 180 yards, and a touchdown for Stanford in their win. Now, it was against a bad Rice team over there in Australia. They've had an extra week to prepare, or an extra few days to prepare. But I think USC is going to find that they're going to play a lot better this week. They started slow and found out that Western Michigan was a little bit better than I think they thought they were going to be. I really thought they were going to roll over them, and the score ended up being, 17-point game. I like USC because I think Sam Darnold's going to have a big. I mean, this is a guy that most people are picking to win the Heisman. Did not throw a touchdown pass in the opener. You've got to think he's got to be a little hungry, got to be a lot hungry. Get the ball in the end zone. Look for Sam Darnold to have a big game. I'll take the Trojans, and it's at 6.5. It started at 5. Anywhere between 5 and 6.5. I think you got to take the Trojans here.
Well, I want to talk about Missouri. Last week, their quarterback, Drew Lock, threw 7 touchdowns, 521 yards. Is he for real?
Well, they played like a high school team. But, I mean, Drew, yeah, he's pretty good. And Missouri's going to be fine. Now, they're at home this week against South Carolina and actually a small favorite over the Gamecocks. South Carolina came away, last week in a competitive game. So, yeah, I do think that this is going to be a good game. I mean, he's not going to throw for that this week. Now, the total is 72.5, which is a little bit rare for these two teams. Last time these two teams met last year was just 52 total points in the game. So I think you got to look at the under in this game. Missouri's not going to score their 40 points like they scored almost 70 last week, but they're not going to. I don't think they'll score any more than 40. So I think the best bet in this game would be to take the under 72.5. 72.5 is a lot of points. I'll take the under in this game.
Well, yeah, Missouri had 72 by themselves, and South Carolina had 35 last week. That puts that number up there pretty high, though. I'm not sure I want to go under on that one, but I do like Missouri at home in this one. I like the home teams a lot of times. And the Gamecocks are good, but I'm going to take Missouri.
Yeah, I think you just got to look at who Missouri played last week and kind of throw it out the door. Missouri State's not good. I mean, and they're not a BCS type team. It was a 36-point line. Would they win by 29?
Yeah.
Didn't even cover the spread against a team like that. 72 points. At that point, what's the difference between 72 and 50? They blew out the other team. I just don't think that they're gonna be able to score as easily in this game. South Carolina's defense is gonna be much better. I like the under still.
Yeah, but in South Carolina, the public loves them. They're like 63% of the public has gone after South Carolina.
Yeah. At plus 2.5, even if when it opened at plus 4.5, a lot of South Carolina bettors, and I would probably side towards Missouri, especially if it's under 3. But yeah, like I said already, my bet's on that under.
Well, we got Georgia, Notre Dame. Probably a lot of people are going to watch this game. Nick Chubb is just really, really good. Um, Jake Fromm is good. I mean, he threw for 143 yards, which really isn't a lot of yards in this day, but it's going to be a great matchup. Where are you going to go with that one first?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to look at Notre Dame here. They don't have a previous meeting. Trying to look up some of their previous meetings, which is a little bit interesting. Mark Richt's not afraid of going to South Bend. He gets a chance to play in South Bend here. Georgia's pretty good. Notre Dame, I think Notre Dame's going to shake kind of some of the webs that they saw last year. Had a really bad season last year. This opened at 6.5. It's all the way down to 4 now. A lot of the money's coming in on Georgia. I think I like Notre Dame here. I think they're better than what people think. South Bend has a little bit of home field advantage there that I think the Irish will win this game. 4 is a little tricky because I could see Notre Dame winning it towards the end, which would make it a 2 or 3 point game. But I do like Notre Dame to win this game. If I'm betting, I'll probably just bite the bullet and take the money line in this game and just take whatever earnings I get on a Notre Dame win. I like the Irish.
Well, yeah, I mean, the way I think it boils down to Georgia's going to have to contend with a dual threat quarterback, with Brandon Wimbush, and I don't know sure Notre Dame can stop the defense, can stop Nick Chubb. I'm not sure they got the defense. So I really in this game I'm going to go with Georgia.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be one of the more competitive games. I mean it's one of the it's one of the better games, but I think it's going to be one of the most competitive games that there is out there. It should be a fun one.
Probably a much lesser game, but it's a Friday night game. Ohio and Purdue. Ohio won 59-0 last week. There really wasn't much there. They beat the Hampton Pirates, which anybody could beat them. Boilermakers, they lost to Louisville. That's a good team. MAC-10 versus Big Ten. I think the Big Ten should cover that one, get the job done.
I think so.
But Ohio looks strong. But I think I think Ohio might even be able to make this competitive. But I go with Purdue at the end.
Yeah, 3 or 4 point line there. These two teams. I like looking at previous meetings. They haven't met since 1988. So there's not much relevance in looking at that for this one. But quarterback there at Purdue's better than I think David Blau. I think he's a little bit better than a lot of people think. He only had 175 passing yards, but Purdue was projected to be one of the worst teams in college football, and really I think a lot of people were surprised at how they competed with Louisville. Louisville, what most people think is a top 20 team. This is a 3.5, 4 point spread. You're right. I think you've got to look at the Big Ten covering this over the MAC. But we've seen things like this happen before. I think Purdue will win this game. 4 point spread's a little tough, but if I'm betting one way or the other, I'm taking the Boilermakers. Maybe a money line bet here as well. I'll take Purdue to win.
Well, there's a battle in Iowa and Iowa State. Always a fun contest. They love this contest there in Iowa. Again, I think Iowa comes away. The Big Ten wins this one also.
Yeah, this is a mandatory game. Mandatory. State of Iowa makes them play this game.
It's a great way to do that. They should.
I think so. Now, in some states you have too many teams, but with Iowa and Iowa State, of course, and once you get to basketball, you throw a few other teams in there. What I find interesting, it opened at 49, and I think you even as low as that sounds, I think you take the under. The Hawkeyes defense, one of the best in the country in my mind. They can really defend. Kirk Ferentz always does a great job defensively. Now, their previous meeting last year was 42-3. Iowa went to Iowa State. Now this one's also in Ames, right? If I remember right, it's in Ames. So
yeah, no, it's a home game for the Cyclones.
Yeah, it's in Ames,
right.
Iowa. So, I still like Iowa to win this game on the road. It's a 1 or 2 point spread. I think Iowa wins it. I think it's going to be kind of an ugly one, like 24-17, 24-20, somewhere around there. I'll take the under and the Hawkeyes here.
Well, a couple more. We talked about Louisville, Lamar Jackson. He last week threw 46 passes in the win. 30 of them were complete. He also carried the ball 21 times. He's a very good dual threat quarterback. Louisville's favored on the road against North Carolina by 10. I think Louisville wins this by more than that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to think of North Carolina. They lost their opener to California, a home game. That I think they thought that they could win, and North Carolina is going to have a tough schedule. Remaining with teams like Clemson and a couple other out of the ACC. So it's going to be kind of a desperation game for North Carolina. But I think we saw one of the worst performances by Louisville in a win last week. They weren't very good, but came away with a win over Purdue. That's a 62.5 is the total. Probably stay away from that. but I do think the Cardinal can cover this 10-point spread. Now, start at 6, so it's going the wrong way for your Louisville bettors. I think Louisville wins this game on the road fairly easily. I'll also go with Louisville over North Carolina.
Well, let's do a couple of quick hits. We got Wake Forest, Boston College. Boston College -1. I go with them.
Yeah, I'll take the home team here. Between two teams that I don't think are very good and I don't know much about, I'll side with the home team.
TCU, Arkansas. Arkansas is a 3-point favorite at home. Yes, I got that one too.
Yeah, I think you got to take Arkansas here. It's funny because I think they opened as a favorite. I think they're an underdog now, though, aren't they? I
yes.
see it.
Yeah.
Arkansas is an underdog at home. Yes, give me the Razorbacks. It's hard. I don't know much about TCU. They've been an offensive, juggernaut last few years. Don't think they're as good this year. I'm taking Arkansas at home.
And lastly on my list here, Nebraska, Oregon. Oregon's been good for a lot of years. I'm not sure they're a 2-point touchdown favorite. I kind of think Nebraska might be able to squeeze in and cover that.
Yeah, I think so too. Nebraska is a team that this is going to be a lot of points. I certainly think there's going to be a lot of points. What is the total? Oh, it's 69 right now. This last year was a great game in Oregon where Nebraska actually won 35-32. Is that right? Yeah, 35-32. No, it was in Nebraska. But anyways, this would be a good game. Around 67 last year. I do think it goes over that this year. Nebraska's not very good defensively. We saw that in week 1. 14-point spread. I'll take Nebraska. I'll take the over as well.
Yeah, Oregon scored the most points last week of any team in the country. They had 77 points.
Yeah, not a surprise. They're quite an offensive team. They always have been. Dating back to the Chip Kelly years. 703 yards. Second most, 77 points last week. I think the over, and I don't care what it is. I think the over, anything over about 75 should be good.
A couple of interstate rivalries. We have Western Michigan, Michigan State. It must be a rivalry week. I'm not sure why. They got Eastern Kentucky and Kentucky, Eastern Illinois, Northern Illinois. What's up with this on week 2?
Yeah, well, non-conference games, you get a chance to play a state team, and some of these need to have it before they get butts in the seats. So, the Western Michigan State game is interesting because we're just not sure where Michigan State's at. We saw Western Michigan compete a little bit last week. I still think the Big Ten, I still think the Spartans should be able to win this game. Western Michigan's got talent, but I don't think there's enough there. Eastern Illinois at Northern Illinois, that spreads off because Eastern Illinois is not a BCS type team. Northern Illinois should have won last week. I think they'll win that game. So there's a couple picks for me. I'll take Michigan State at home, and I'll take Northern Illinois at home. And
lastly, I said probably last week was the only time I'm going to talk about the Illini, but I'm going to bring them up again. Western Kentucky is a 7.5, 8-point favorite. That line's kind of moved. That Champaign, I think Illinois got a chance to cover that one.
You would think they very well could have lost and should have lost to Ball State. Now that did not cover, unfortunately for me. But yeah, 7.5 points. You would think. Western Kentucky's had a nice program. Illinois has not had a nice program. But you would think, as we keep saying, these Big Ten teams, these power conference teams, should be able to find ways to win. We'll see. Last time these two teams met, Illinois won 42-34 back in 2014. So it hasn't been too long ago. I'll take Illinois at home in this one.
Looking ahead to week 3, we got at least 4 good contests on paper. Tennessee, Florida, Clemson, Louisville. I think it's going to be an awesome game. Miami, Florida State, Texas, and USC. Those are going to be some games we really going to hit next week.
Yeah, and one more game this week I think will be a good one is Auburn-Clemson. I think Clemson wins that game. I think I underestimated Clemson last week. They're still really good, even not having Deshaun Watson. I think Clemson -5 is a good pick at home against Auburn. But yeah, week 3 should be fun. That's the thing about it is these first 3 weeks have good non-conference games. Then we start getting into good conference games. So right. College football every week never ceases to disappoint.
Well, early in the year I had Auburn as a really top team. I thought Jared Stidham was going to come in and just win all these games, and now I think they're going to go 0-2 to start the year.
Well, yeah, I don't know about that. It is going to be a difficult challenge at Clemson. You talking about Auburn?
Auburn and Clemson, yeah.
Well, they won last week though, so they're not going to start 0-2. They beat Georgia Southern.
Oh, yeah.
they're probably going to lose at Clemson. I mean, Clemson won last year 19-13, but they're not as good as people think, I don't think.
Yeah, Clemson's is favored at home 6.5. I got to stick with that.
Right.
Well, tell us what's going on at Noob Sports. Tell us a little bit about your poll before we end things here.
Yeah, our second week of the panel poll, we had 10 voters this week. Alabama's still number one, of course. One guy put Ohio State number one, and that's you again, and that's okay. They won their game. You can keep them at one. But Alabama's taken up all the number one spots. We got Ohio State 2, USC 3, Clemson 4, Oklahoma 5, Penn State, Michigan, Washington, Wisconsin, and Oklahoma State round out the top 10. So panel poll, if you're interested in joining, you can go ahead and join. Just send us an email and at noopsports@gmail.com, noopsports@gmail.com. We can put you in there. We can put you in as the panel poll, but should be fun all year long. Alabama at the top. We have a few other things. NFL is getting started this weekend, so we've got some NFL content for you to look over. We're starting to finish up our college football bets for this coming weekend. We have a static page available for you to check those out. Just keep in mind that up until Saturday, we have the right to change them if we really need to. Things do change in the world of college football in the betting terms. So, I put some thoughts out there early, but have every right to change it. But go to the noopsports.com and find our week two college football bets. I've got about a handful of games up there so far.
Okay, that about wraps it up for this week. Rodney, any last word?
Yep, this has been fun. Week 2 college football podcast. Also, make sure you stay tuned. We'll put an NFL podcast out there as well as the first game Thursday night between the Chiefs and the Patriots and a ton of games. Real quick, the Dolphins and Buccaneers did cancel their game on Sunday, so get those guys out of your lineups and do not bet that game because there is no game. Other than that, go to noobsports.com. 1 year anniversary. Happy 1 year anniversary to us. Thank you for being great listeners. Thanks, Tom. I'm Rodney. This has been the Noob Sports College Football Week 2 podcast. So long for just a while.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Noob Sports Show. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider subscribing to our iTunes channel today. Plus, visit us at noobsports.com for more picks, previews, strategy, and news. That's KNUPsports.com.